You know, it's when you try to occasionally church bring specials and book groups to come and sing and do different things. It's always a great thing to do. And I had a really hard time getting a hold of the one that we have today. The telephone line didn't stretch that far back. But I didn't know for sure who I could get to come today, and I was happened to reading in the book of Genesis, and it said, Noah was a righteous man, blameless among the people of his time, and he walked with God. Noah had 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and his wife Joyce. And I thought, that will be a good special. And so today it's my pleasure to present to you Mrs. Noah to tell us about the flood.
Well, this is a good-looking group. Man, you all must have come a long ways to see me. Well, I was looking around outside as I came in. I'm thinking you guys could use some rain. Now, be careful what you ask for. You might get it. I was in the back earlier, and you guys must be having a feast today. I saw all that food. Why, your fields must have really produced good this year. So it looks like you're going to have a good time. How do you get those windmills to work? Right here inside this building. Man, this is a strange world. Well, before I came out here, I was wanting to freshen up a bit. And so I asked this nice lady over here, oh, honey, I forgot your name.
Oh, I'm just Beverly, honey.
Okay, Beverly. Well, you know, at my age, it's really hard to remember people's names.
Me too.
But I wanted to go back and freshen up a bit, so she showed me to a little room back there. And I looked around, I found the wash bowl there, and I thought, my, they ought to set this up on a table. But I was washing my hands. I was doing just fine when she looked in to see how I was doing, and she got all upset, and she ran over there and she pushed that little silver thing, and that water went whoosh right through the floor. I had to yank my hands back. Oh, you know, my hands weren't really that dirty, and somebody else could have used that same water. Well, it's my great privilege to be here with you today. You know, I like to drop into other time periods and just see how you're doing. But most of all, I want to encourage you to be faithful. Now, I know you probably don't recognize me, but I'm your ancestor. And you've probably heard about my husband Noah, but you probably haven't heard much about me. And you might have heard about my 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Now the boys were born after Noah was 500 years old. You just never mind how old I was. And behind every successful man, there's a woman somewhere putting in her 2 cents worth and making things happen. And you know, without me, they would have been sunk. Well, I thought you might like to hear my side of the story. You know, things about our life that didn't get recorded. I suggested they write down some of these things, but I got overruled, and you know how that goes. But I thought you might be interested. One day, I said to my husband, honey, you know we've been married for a long time. And for our anniversary, I think it would be great if we went on a cruise. Well, it wasn't exactly like that. You see, it was more God's idea. In our day, everyone thought only evil all the time. Now, those are strong words, but that's the way it was. Only evil all the time. And God was sorry that he had ever made man. Now, my husband wasn't perfect, I ought to know, since I'm his wife. But God found favor with Noah and considered him righteous and blameless among men. And so God told Noah that he was going to destroy every living thing that he had made. Well, then God told us to build an ark. Well, we'd never heard of an ark before, but God laid out the exact plans. It was to be 450 feet long, 75 feet wide, and 45 feet high, divided into 3 decks. It was to be finished to within 18 inches of the top, put a roof over it, and a door in the side. 1 door. And God told us to build it out of gopher wood. So every few days, Noah would say to our sons, "Boys, we gotta go for wood." And they'd grab their chainsaws and jump in the pickup and, well, not quite like that. The ark was to be covered on the outside and the inside with pitch. Now, pitch is a sticky, gooey, tarry substance to make it waterproof. And you know how guys are. Those boys would pitch it here and pitch it there, and that stuff was a mess. Did you ever try to get that stuff out of your clothes? Noah started building that ark right there in the front yard. It looked like a great big wooden box. And we were miles and miles from any body of water, especially one that was big enough to float our boat. And people would come from way far away, all around, just to watch and laugh at us and say, "What is that thing?" Or, "How are you going to get that thing to the water?" Or, "Whoever taught you how to build a ship? That thing will never float." But we just kept right on building according to God's exact instructions. My husband tried to tell the people that God was going to send rain and destroy the earth, and that they should repent before it was too late. But we'd never had rain on the earth before, and so they didn't believe what God said was going to happen. My husband preached for 120 years, but nobody repented. As the years went by, our sons grew up and got married, and we all worked toward getting that boat ready for us and the animals that God said would be on board with us. But don't think we weren't wondering what was going to happen, because nothing like this had ever happened before. But God said it, and so we obeyed. When we were finished building, God told us to gather up all the food that would be needed for us and the animals and to load it on board. Now, that seemed like a huge amount of food, but we didn't really understand how long we were going to be in the ark. When Noah was 600 years old, God told us it was time to go on board. And so God sent the animals to us to be loaded. He sent 2 of every kind of unclean animal, the male and his mate, and he sent 7 of the clean animals, the males and their mates. He sent wild animals and livestock, animals that creep on the ground, and the birds. Some of all living was going to be saved. And here they came, 2 by 2. Now that was quite a sight. And the neighbors would stare out their windows, and some people just stood right out there in the front to watch. And then God told us to go on board, and it was going to begin to rain in 7 days. And then God shut the door. Now, we were busy inside, getting the animals all settled and in their places. I don't think we weren't wondering what was going to happen next. Then it began to rain. Why, it was pouring rain. Why, it was raining cats and dogs. Well, the cats and dogs were on the inside with us, and the rain was on the outside. All the water in the heavens above was being dumped out, and the water in and under the earth burst forth. Like I said, we'd never had rain before, so it was really scary for us. And then people began to cry and scream and pound on the side of the ark, shouting at us to let them in. But we couldn't, because God had shut the door. It rained for 40 days and 40 nights. When the water got deep enough, our boat began to float on the surface. Now my hands were full, trying to manage all the work that needed to be done. Beasts and boys and burdensome chores and noises and nightmares and never mind the bugs. You know, we really had to be careful with those termites. They can eat you out of house and home. I didn't have any of your modern conveniences, a dishwasher, a microwave, a washer and dryer. I didn't even have an iPad. And I would have loved to have some of your bug repellents and especially some of your scented sprays or some potpourri or something. We had the roosters waking us up in the morning and the owls keeping us awake at night. We had to make sure to keep the mice away from the elephants. We had alligators and aardvarks and parrots and penguins and snakes and skunks and lizards and lions and tigers and bears. Oh my! Did you ever feel like you're just running yourself ragged, cleaning up after everybody, picking up and straightening up, and the next day it's just all a mess again? Well, that's what I felt like. I would say, this place looks like a pigsty, and I just cleaned up this mess. Those pigs would just look at me like they didn't know what I was talking about. Then there was the food. One didn't like this, and another didn't like that. But if it wasn't on board, there was no choice, because we couldn't just run out to the store. And the animals had to be fed. Now that was a full-time job. And you know those animals are great food processors. What goes in always comes out. Why, I hear you all even sell that stuff. You call it Zoodoo. I hear the elephant is the best. Never mind the most. Why, we could have made a fortune.